It's still in here. And today I am playing a game I found on Steam called Depression Quest. Um, it's not a fun game. It's supposed to be very emotional, very informative, kind of about depression and how it affects people and I feel very connected to it because of the fact that when I was in high school, I did go through depression, and I luckily got help, and I am who I am today. I'm still here. I'm alive. I'm well. I'm who I am because of it, though. And I don't know if anyone watching this has depression. If you do, I sincerely urge you to, find someone to talk to, whether it be a therapist or a friend or something. Just find someone who will listen to you, because just listening, or just having someone listen to you, helps you so much. So, I'm going to go ahead and start playing this. It's completely word-based. I make a few choices, at the end of some words, and basically we see how the story goes. Personally, I'm going to probably play this maybe twice. The first time I'm going to try to keep as close to me as possible, but there are some scenarios where I will make different kind of choices, and I'll explain why at the time. So, for now, let's go ahead and begin. As early on a Monday morning, you are a mid-20s human being. You have a significant other named Alex, who you are rather fond of, that you have been seeing exclusively for the past few months. The rest of your social circles consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances, some of whom you met at your day job, which is a little boring but pays the rent. You'd like to be doing more with your life, as would your parents, but you're still in the process of figuring out what that means and how to go about it. You're also dealing with motivation issues that sometimes makes dealing with these things difficult, and you feel like this is probably your fault, and on bad days you can feel inwardly angry and down on yourself for being lazy, but you're not quite sure how you can break out of it or how other people deal with these feelings, and it seems so functional. You spend a lot of nights fixating on thinking about this, but never seem to do anything other than lose sleep. It is an unseasonably warm Wednesday evening. You've spent the past several hours at work. The past week or so, you found your job motivation flagging more than usual. You've been in a fog practically all day today, simply going through the motions without realizing even what you've been doing half the time. And yet time seems to be moving at half speed. So you're so checked out that when your boss presses you to tell you that instead you can go home early, it barely registers. As you walk home, the streets hiss from the recent rainfall. You know that your significant other will be in classes until late, another couple hours at least. You briefly consider using the serendipitous solitude to catch up on that project that you've been working on haphazardly for the past few months. As soon as you think about the work that awaits you at home, you can feel the panic creeping in from the back of your brain, and then all you can think about is how incredibly far behind you are, and the amount of work seems nothing less than insurmountable. By the time you arrive home and change out of your uncomfortable work clothes, the stress is weighing down on you like a heavy wet wool blanket. Your computer seems to be staring you down from your desk. You want to sit down and work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels flying. More than anything, you feel suddenly and absolutely exhausted and feel a strong desire to simply hide in bed. Do you? And I can't use this first option since it's write it out, but the rest of them are. Reluctantly sit down at your desk and try to make yourself do something. Turn on the TV, telling yourself you need a quick half-hour to unwind from work. Crawl into bed, you're so stressed and overwhelmed you can't possibly accomplish anything today. And just as a side note, we are depressed. Interactions exhausting, and you're withdrawn. We're not seeing a therapist, we're not taking medication. So personally, this one is the closest to what I do because I played video games and I used that to, relieve my stress, kind of. Like, it was a distraction. It was, what I enjoyed doing, and takes an absently killing time. You check the clock and see that over 20 minutes have already passed since you sat down. As your self-imposed time limit creeps ever nearer, you become more and more anxious. You stand up and walk to the fridge, telling yourself, I'll just make a quick sandwich and get to work after that. It can be productive on an empty stomach, right? As you eat, you start pacing around your apartment, heading past your bedroom. In the process, you stop in the doorway, as if physically unable to cross the threshold. Familiar waves of exhaustion start racking you, and you feel simultaneously tired and panicked. You close your door and head back to the couch. It's still early, yet you tell yourself, as long as I get to work in an hour, I'll have plenty of time to be productive. As you flip channels and let the CSI and Jeopardy reruns wash over you, you sink deeper into the couch, feeling at once encouraged and shielded by being quite literally swallowed up by it. As the second hour draws near, sure enough, you find yourself getting anxious and jittery. You reach the fridge, pace couch process a couple more times before you look at the clock and realize that several hours have passed, and not surprisingly, you managed to get no work done. You crawl into bed, acutely aware of the fact that you have work in the morning, and any opportunity you had to catch up on your own creative endeavors today was squandered. You're feeling so disgusted with yourself that when Alex calls to talk to you on her way home from class, you simply say you had a really rough day at work and you're trying to rest up before your shift tomorrow. She says she understands and wishes you a good night, that you can't tell. But notice she sounds slightly disappointed. Ironically, the stress of potentially upsetting your partner compounds with the stress of not having gotten anything done this evening, and the stress of having to go into work tomorrow. The buzz of anxiety in your brain melts together with your body's utter physical exhaustion, and you sink into a semi-hypnagogic, anxious funk, too tired to try and work, but too anxious to fall asleep for several hours. You are now very depressed. You spend a large amount of time, sleeping, hating yourself, and having very low energy or motivation. It's a mild Friday afternoon. Alex calls you from one of her classes, telling you that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommate a few times with Alex, and you get along well enough, but aren't particularly close. You don't have work in the morning, and you have nothing else in particular to do tonight. You're feeling kind of run down, but you have been fatigued most of the time lately. You mention that you're feeling ill, but you're not, because you're not sure how to explain those feelings to someone else, and say that you aren't sure that you can make it tonight. There's a second of silence over your phone, but you can swear you hear the sound of your partner's face fall. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week, and she sounds pretty insistent that you come over. She even drops a few suggestive words, suggestively worded hints that you can stay over with them tonight after the party. What do you do? Personally, I wouldn't say no to going to places. I wouldn't say no. So, I will agree to go. You agree to go even though you're really feeling social. You know it's important to Alex, and you'd really like to see her. Seeing her does make you feel better sometimes, and you hope that this is the case tonight, even if it does mean dealing with all the usual social anxiety. The time to leave rolls around, and you grab your overnight bag. Partners. I don't know where I read that. Alex's apartment is a short walk away, and there are already people hanging out on the porch. You feel your chest tighten as you approach the building and try to seal your nerves. You quickly find your partner chatting away with a birthday girl, and Alex immediately lines up when she sees you. I'm so happy you came. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it. The young man taps her on the shoulder, and she turns back to you to apologize and let you know that they have to do something for the party. Alex hands you a beer and plants a kiss on your cheek before going off to deal with whatever came up. You look around, you don't see anyone else you recognize. So, yeah, no, socializing is not a thing. Awkwardly sat in the same spot, unsure of what else to do, and put your bag in Alex's room and avoid the crowd in there for a while. You could cling to the back wall, sip your beer, and wait for your girlfriend to return. That's actually the choice I'd probably make. I'd cling to a wall, literally. And if I had a drink, I don't actually drink alcohol, but if I had a drink of some kind, I'd just drink that. Proceed to drink in earnest, hoping it will make you less uncomfortable. No, I don't drink. As Alex leaves, you're not quite sure what to do with yourself, standing in the middle of the room. Leaves you feeling kind of exposed, and you don't feel ballsy enough to run away approach any of the groups of people clustered together talking. You head to a clear spot, and lean against it. For some reason, this always makes you feel a lot more secure. You scan the party for a familiar face or any sign. Your partner ain't coming with nothing. Not sure what else to do, and worrying that you must look creepy just standing there watching everyone. You take out your phone to busy yourself. 20 semi-tedious games of Bejeweled Blitz later. not sure what she means. She repeats the question, saying that you haven't seemed like yourself lately. She gestures to the dirty dishes piled in the sink and notes the fact that you haven't called or visited in a while. Your reticence only seems to spur on more. She presses you, asking if you're having problems at work or with Alex, and you're beginning to feel increasingly better about her sudden, well-meaning but overwhelming inquisition. Under her questions, you've become increasingly uncomfortable. You want to be able to explain to her how you've been feeling, but the truth is you're not really sure yourself. Nothing horrific has happened at work or with your significant other or friends or anything like that. All the same, you can't deny that lately you've just felt drained, as though you're not really here. You wish you could tell your mother these things, but she hasn't been approachable about negative emotion in the past. She is the kind of person who holds the opinion that the solution to any problem is to simply try harder and maintain a positive attitude, a stance that has reared its head in past conversations while you've begun to explore the subject with her. You know she's unlikely to be understanding, and you feel the energy drain out of you when you imagine what would happen if you managed to blurt out what you are feeling. What do you do? Personally, this question actually isn't easy for me to answer because my mom was the person who helped me, get help. Like, she's a nurse and she, knows signs and, kind of asked me, and she really, really helped. Like, she didn't say, get over it. She was like, maybe you need to see somebody, it'd be a good idea. And so, with this person's mom not being like that, it's, just, I had to go with my secondary choice. I can't do the first option. Try to be honest with her anyway, tell her that everything is fine and thank you for asking. Change the subject. I'd change the subject, Are you okay? It's a question that you've been finding yourself being asked a lot lately, and it's one that has begun to make you instantly uncomfortable. It's one you would have to swallow your guts to inadequately describe, which would have been an almost impossible feat to perform at the moment. Even if you managed to, you'd have to fight through your self-loathing long enough to keep talking despite feeling like everything you're saying amounts to simple belly aching. If somehow you powered through that as well, you'd have to live with feeling truly exposed, and you figure anyone who would know all these things would be put off to you permanently. More importantly, despite your mother's best intentions, she is quite likely the worst possible person to try and wade through all this bullshit with. You evade the question by pretending you've received a text message. Once you pretend as though you're finished reading it, you change the subject back to when your mother's interested. She takes the bait and the topic is successfully changed. You feel a feel of unease lingers, and your stress levels stay high until she leaves a bit later. You wonder if you should talk to someone about this, about all of this, someone who would be more sympathetic and not tell you simply think positive. Jesus Christ, I cannot talk. Sorry. It's a lazy Sunday afternoon. You are idly clicking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a co-worker of yours that you're friendly with, asks you how you are and makes hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift covered, so it's slightly awkward. You're waiting in anticipation for him to ask you to come in on short notice when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats? He asked. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago. I'm having an awful hard time finding a home for the last one of the litter. You don't have any pets, right? It takes you a moment to process this new information, and you're caught off guard as he begins to earnestly try to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. It's not something that you have specifically considered before, and he seems fairly insistent. Sorry. It's still early for me. You're a real sweetheart. Jesus Christ. She's a real sweetheart. Really loves people. She's got all her shots already taken care of, and the vet says she's healthy as a horse. I can bring her over by your place tonight if you're interested. You look around your apartment and try to picture a cat in it as he continues to tell you how cute she is. You tell him that this is all kind of sudden, and that you don't have anything for the kitten set up here. Oh, don't worry about that. I can bring over a litter box and food, and all that, since you'd really be helping me out of a fix. It's the least I could do. I just don't want to have to put her in a shelter. You can't help but feel like you're being guilt-tripped, but you decide to give it some serious consideration. It does get awful lonely around your apartment, and it might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on the responsibility of a cat, even if they are fairly low maintenance. So, I'm not fully capable of taking it, In real life, we have 2 cats. is evil, and the other one is the sweetest thing ever. Personally, I'm actually not a huge fan of cats. I prefer dogs, personally, just because they're more friendly. But at the same time, I know that, if I was living on my own, I'd probably get a pet. So I'm going to become a cat owner. You accept the offer of the kitten and hang up shortly after making arrangements for when your coworker can drop her off tonight. After hanging up, you worry if you've suddenly taken on a responsibility that you can't handle, and hope you don't make a small animal suffer for it. You're not entirely sure what to expect, and you spend the rest of the afternoon researching cat care online and trying to think of a name. The evening rolls around and you hear a knock at your door, startling you out of reading Wikipedia entirely too hard. You take possession of a small, terrified black and white kitten in a carrier, along with everything you need to start taking care of her. You take her into your bedroom, close the door, and open the door to the carrier excitedly. She covers on the back of it, and you back off. Feeling slightly defeated, you remember what you researched on introducing a kitten to a new home, and leave her alone to go mess around on your computer, hopefully checking over her shoulder every so often to see if she has come out yet. She hides in her carrier periodically, making sorrowful cat howls long enough for you to start worrying that she already doesn't like you. By the time you go to bed, she's curled up at the foot of it, eyeing you nervously before falling asleep. Over the next few days, you gain her trust, and she begins affectionately following you around, sleeping on you and hopping up on you anytime you sit down to do some work. It's a late Friday afternoon, and quitting time is just around the corner. A bright, clear day is giving way to a still, temperate evening. You can hear your coworkers all around you, anxiously making plans for their evenings and weekends, but you're really looking forward to just going home and resting after what's turned out to be a very long and taxing work week. Just before the end of your shift, you get a call from Alex. It seems a group of your mutual friends are heading out to a nearby pub for dinner and drinks to celebrate the end of the week, and they want to know if you'd like to come along. You tentatively tell her you're emotionally exhausted from the work week, and a social outing like that would just take too much out of you today. You encourage her to go and have a good time, since you know it's been a while since she's gone out with friends. But the effort feels futile, since you know she isn't going without you. A couple hours pass. A couple hours later, the two of you find yourselves in a familiar position on the couch, watching comedy shows on Netflix. A box of pizza open on the coffee table in front of you. As you look around across the couch at her, you start to feel anxious. You feel bad about effectively forcing the two of you to stay in tonight. Again, while you are always appreciative of your partner's efforts to take your feelings into account. Sorry. It's like 11 o'clock here, and help make sure you're socially comfortable. You sincerely worry that you're holding her back from enjoying a more fulfilling relationship. While she does seem to enjoy spending time with you, as the two of you sit in comfortable, almost contented silence, watching old shows you've each seen 2 or 3 times before, your ever-increasing fear that your relationship is becoming one-sided weighs more and more heavily on you. You feel more than ever like a burden or a bore to her, and it's virtually impossible for you to see what value you could possibly offer to her in return. Worst of all, this nagging fear has made you feel more self-conscious than ever, withdrawing ever inwards. You start to pull away even from Alex herself. Unfortunately, we can't choose the first two. And this one's hard for me too, because when I went through depression, I didn't have a girlfriend. So, just considering, the relationship I am in now, I do have a bad habit of asking, questions. As with option 3, ask her if she's happy with her relationship. I do have a bad habit of asking that, because I worry, I worry that I'm not, a good boyfriend, or, doing things right, blah, 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 and it kind of sucks. I'm gonna choose this. You look over at Alex, who hasn't noticed you watching her yet, and try to parse the expression on her face. You worry that it's one of sheer boredom or tolerance. You wonder if she's thinking about all the fun things she could have been doing tonight if she wasn't trapped on this couch with you, ordering from one of the same 3 takeout places that you always order from. A sense of disappointing her creeps over you as you picture what the night could have been if you had just accepted an invitation she had made earlier. I know it's a pretty boring Friday night for you. Are you really happy being with me, being like this? She turns to look at you, forehead wrinkled. Why do you ask me that so often? You feel her body stiffen and pull away from yours just a little. Well, you're unable to think of how to answer. first two options don't work. Personally, I'd probably answer 4. I mean, yes, 3 is true, and 5 kind of negates the question, but I do worry. That's the thing. I always worry that I'm boring or that somebody's not interested in me. And it's hard to put into words, like everything else. It's just really hard to phrase. So, Alex sighs. Look, if that were the case, I would let you know. I don't think you're boring. You're more of a homebody than I am. I'm learning how to deal with it. Deal with it, you think, repeating it in your mind. Does she see you as a problem to be dealt with? You try to pick her reply apart in your mind, and all of your conclusions lead to your previous story, that you're holding her back. You begin to think that the phrasing was chosen without too much deliberation, and that despite her attempts at reassuring you, this slip of the tongue revealed her true feelings. It's not true. She's not used to somebody like you, but that doesn't mean that you're terrible, I just picture how much fun she would be having right now if you had only accepted her invitation and managed to somehow get over your reservations and anxieties despite not knowing how bad that she calls back up to you. Thanks for putting up with me, you say, staring at the TV without actually watching it. She sighs in response. We are now deeply depressed. Even activities you used to enjoy hold little or no interest for you, and you exist in your constant state of lethargy. It's a breezy Sunday afternoon. You've allowed Amanda, an old friend from school that is in town for the weekend, to talk you into leaving the house for coffee and catch up. You meet her in a small cafe and talk about what you've been up to since you've last seen each other. You can't help but feel like they're a lot more accomplished and interesting than you are while listening to them talk about their life after school. When it's your turn to brief them on your activities, you feel anxious and ashamed and give a very abbreviated version. You try to think about your job as long as possible. You feel incredibly boring while you describe it, despite her expressing sincere interest in you and your life. Amanda's known you long enough to read your mood and tone of voice. She leans in to ask a question, while gently touching your hand, a look of genuine concern on her face. What's wrong to you? Now, with this one, I might insist that nothing is wrong, or I might be defensive, but quite frankly, I notice too often that my hands shake. They still do, for one reason or another. I've noticed that my hands do have twitchiness to them, and knowing that, something's wrong, I do notice my hands do shake, and it sucks, so I'm gonna notice. It's just a small question, but it feels like a blow to the gut. You surprise yourself when you realize that your tightly clenched fists are now beginning to shake slightly. Despite your best efforts, you feel tears begin to sting at your eyes. You try to disguise this by tilting your head up and praying that they'll suck back in. She suggests that you two get out of there, and you feel mortified. She offers to go back to your apartment with you. The two of you end up talking in her car for 2 hours, as words just pour forth from you. Amanda seems unsure of what to say at times, but she listens and rubs your back as you sob and talk. She asks if you're going to a doctor about this, and you admit that you haven't. She mentions that her mother is seeing a very good therapist in town, and offers to ask her about it. You're not thrilled about the idea of going to a therapist, and even less thrilled that Amanda might be telling someone about your problems. But she persists and tells you she'll email you the doctor's contact information later in the week. It's a glaring Sunday morning, and one of the few days that your brother Malcolm is in town and free long enough for you two to actually see each other. You have a dental appointment that day, but you make plans for him to pick you up afterwards. Your appointment takes a little longer than expected because your dentist tells you that you've started grinding your teeth in your sleep to a worrying degree. I unfortunately do grind my teeth in my sleep, which sucks. Heck, it could be a worrying degree already, I don't know. Of course, last time I went to a dentist, sorry, off tangent. Given how nearly everything in your life has been feeling enormous and stressful lately, this doesn't come as a surprise to you. He suggests that you try to reduce your stress levels and fits you for a night guard. It feels awkward and too big for your mouth, and you feel embarrassed looking at your puffed out face in the mirror with it in. You finish up your appointment in a hurry and leave about half an hour overdue from meeting your always punctual brother in the parking lot. You finish up as quickly as possible and leave the building to scan the parking lot for your brother's car, but you don't see his old Civic anywhere. You pass by a blue Camaro and jump as it beeps at you, says it, and it's Malcolm in the driver's seat. But it's Malcolm, of course. You hop in the passenger seat and compliment him on his new writing and mentions that as a perk of a promotion he's recently updated work. He starts telling you about how much more money he's making, how his career is really taking off. Now he's starting to look at houses with his wife soon. You clutch the bag containing the night guard in your hand and feel yourself clenching your teeth as you think of your crummy apartment and how long it's been since you've been able to take a day off work without having to worry about making ends meet. He's only 2 years older than you, but it feels like he's eons ahead of you in every other aspect of your lives. So he asked, how did your apartment go? Did you get drilled full of holes or what? Appointment. Sorry, I said apartment last time I read this. Appointment go. So it's a shame creeps over you. You can lie about it, or you can tell him about your tooth grinding problem without the stress causing it. It's such a simple thing, it's not really worth it to lie, you know? The dentist said, I'm apparently grinding my teeth too much when I sleep. Oh, Malcolm replies, been stressed out lately, kiddo? Deciding that you don't really want to go into it, you tell him that you don't think that's the case, and it's probably just your own thing. He doesn't pry farther, and instead begins reminiscing about the time you chipped a baby tooth because he actually knocked you over once. You go out for dinner and catch up on things, but you still feel somewhat distracted by the gnawing anxiety in the back of your mind. Though you enjoy your brother's company, you still feel like you want nothing more than to go home and hide from the world tonight. It becomes hard for you to try to stuff all of your horrible feelings down and go emotionless when someone like the dentist can see a fraction of what's going on inside your head. It leaves you feeling embarrassed and weak, and you hate yourself for feeling that way. You wonder if you're really fooling anyone to think you're a normal person, and then you wonder if your brother knows and is hanging out with you at a pity site. After he drops you back off at your apartment, you throw the night guard out. You can't even sit to look at the thing. It's a dry Sunday morning, not afternoon. You grab your morning coffee and scoot your rapidly growing kitten off your office chair. Despite her protests, sit down at your desk to check your email. A new message pops up in your inbox almost as soon as you do. It's from Amanda, and you remember your meeting in the cafe and awkwardly bringing up your feelings to her. Subject, hey buddy. Hey, sorry it's been a few weeks. I meant to get this to you sooner, but it took a while for me to get a hold of my folks back home. Dad told me to say hi, by the way. Anyway, I remember what we were talking about last time I saw you, and I hope you weren't insulted. I asked my mom for the number for her therapist. Don't worry, I didn't tell her who it was for. I think she's worried about me now though, haha. Anyway, the number is yeah. It's a really good office, you should look into it. Talking to someone never hurts. If you're worried about the money, don't be. They're one of the few that has a really good sliding scale fee system and won't charge you what you can't afford. Hope you're feeling better. It was really nice to see you again. Hey, it's still early enough that you could call and make an appointment today. Your kitten curls up in your lap as you consider what to do. First, what I can do. Sleep on it, see how you're feeling in the morning. You're not keen on the idea at all, but you don't want to disappoint Amanda. Close the email without thinking more of it has been embarrassing enough already. And this is the point where it's like, I did get help, you know, and I didn't just ignore it, you know, I went and saw somebody. It took me a little while to think whether a little bit, I did actually think on it, you know, like, is this a good idea to go see somebody and blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'm gonna do. The thought of picking up the phone and calling someone about this right now is overwhelming. Sure, you're having a hard time lately and have motivation issues, but are you really in need of therapy? Shouldn't you be able to just get over it yourself? What if they put you on medication that makes you feel like a zombie? Which is a lie. The medication does not make you feel like a zombie. It helps you deal with it, you know? You feel less bothered by the stress of it all. And the actual, like, depression itself, you feel less stressed about it. That way you can function, you know? It sincerely helped. And, you know, eventually you stop realizing, like, not stop realizing, but after a certain point, you start feeling, you know, normal again. Like, sincerely, what happened with me is I was on medication, and my mom one day said, you seem happier nowadays. Do you think maybe you want to stop taking the medication? And I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And I stopped taking it, and I was perfectly fine. Soon after, I stopped going to therapy, and I'm this. Trying to think about all these things at once makes you feel like a very big deal. You decide to take your time to think on it. The rest of the day passes quickly, and that night you have a hard time trying to sleep because your brain is too busy thinking about all these things and imagining all of the ways it could go horribly wrong. The next morning you check your email again with blurry eyes and a mute kid. Amanda's email is still there, seemingly waiting for you. You are no more decided than you were yesterday. What now? And I will choose this option in the next video. So for now, guys, I thank you for joining me on this. I thank you guys for